Welcome to Three Voices Unfiltered, where no topic is off limits and everything gets real. Join us,
Ronisha,
Theresa,
Suzanne, as we dive into hot topics, share our wildest experiences, and bear our honest opinions and thoughts. Buckle up, because with us, it's always raw, always vibrant, and absolutely unfiltered.
welcome everybody to Three Voices Unfiltered. Hello, Theresa.
Hello, Ronisha.
Hi, Suzanne.
Ronisha.
Hi, Ronisha. We have a great but serious topic today, and it's breaking down stereotypes.
That's a good one.
So first, I want to define what a stereotype is. Now, according to Merriam-Webster, it's something conforming to a fixed or general pattern, especially a standardized mental picture that is held in common by members of a group that represents an oversimplified opinion, a prejudged attitude, or uncritical judgment. So
what
that's
does that mean?
Exactly. I'm like, this is too much. Basically, a stereotype in my eyes is it's a belief projected on a particular group of people. Women, men, African Americans, Caucasians, Hispanics, disabled, elderly, a group of people.
It could be gender, it could be sex.
It could be gender, sex, ethnicity,
social level, anything.
social level, any of those.
It's a preconceived notion of what they are without knowing.
Absolutely. Without even meeting someone from that group or having that conversation from that group. Do we want to start with some of our own stereotypes? Or have we ever been stereotyped?
Yes, it's happened
stereotyped.
to me. It's happened to
Yeah.
me. I'll share mine really quickly. I was dating someone. I worked in corporate America for 24 years. And so because this person knew that I worked in corporate America and what I did for a living and didn't know how much money I made, but knew that I had to make some kind of money, you know, because I own my own house, you know, had my car, you know, traveling, doing what I do, was doing. And that person was categorizing me, you know, thinking that I would be behaving a certain type of way, you know what I mean? And I remember telling him, first of all, you don't know my story. You don't know my background. You don't know what I went through. You're just looking at the superficial of what you see right now, okay? And it really, really bothered me. And, you know, and as time went by, you know, he saw that I wasn't that as he tried to categorize me, okay? You know, because a lot of times when they see certain things about you, whatever that is, okay, that's when we do it as human beings because we all do it, okay? Then we size people up.
Absolutely.
We size them up and we's like, you know, how am I going to communicate with this person? Am I going to communicate with this person? You know, but I'll be honest with you. I didn't fight it. It just was a little aggravating, you know, because first of all, I'm not going to prove to you, you know what I'm saying, who I am. The one thing that I did it when I was younger. I'm not going to dumb myself down to make you comfortable.
Absolutely.
You know, and I did that.
That's true.
I did it. You know, so that was an experience.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's so random. Just because you work in corporate America and you have a good job. It's weird.
It's the dumbest thing. You know, I mean, it was ridiculous.
And it doesn't matter.
It's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Like,
it pays your bills.
Yes.
I've met millionaires, and I don't put him in a category. I'm thinking, like, I guess he thought that because of your job or your house, you should have been like a bougie person, just to put it on like this bougie.
Yeah, he cursed at me one time. Okay, no, he ain't never cursed at me, but
I don't
he said the word
understand.
bougie. He said that.
Yeah.
To me, right. And I was like offended.
Yeah.
Okay, initially, you know what I mean? But then but like I said, you don't know me.
You don't know. And it doesn't matter that I've met millionaires and they're like the simplest down to earth. I'm probably more of a snob than they are, honestly. So that doesn't define who you are. Or
So,
what,
Suzanne, what stereotypes have people projected on you?
So my stereotype, one that really gets under my skin and bothers me, is that because I'm Hispanic, I'm Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans are Boricua Morena. A lot of people, and a lot of it was lack of, it was ignorance. I'm just gonna say they were ignorant, and
Of course.
they assumed that isn't stereotyping kind of
It's ignorance.
Yeah, okay.
It's ignorance.
So as a Puerto Rican, I'm a U.S. citizen. I have the same rights that these born American ladies have, and I've been asked for my green card before. People assumed that I was here illegally and asked me for a green card. Or one that really made me mad was I went to the bank that we used to work for, one of their branches, and I went to deposit a check from Puerto Rico. It was it was my mother's retirement check, and it was in dollars, obviously, because we use U.S. dollars. And it took about 3 hours for me to get this check deposited because they needed to call everybody and their mother to confirm that the check could be deposited.
Wow.
I was so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you're in banking and you should know this. But that's
And
been
you
my.
work for the company.
And I work for the company. I'm not lying to you. This is totally legal. You can anyhow. Yeah, I've been stereotyped because I'm Hispanic.
I've been stereotyped.
illegal.
Yeah, that's terrible.
As an immigrant, let me put it that way. As an immigrant, like I was an illegal immigrant.
From your own country.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been stereotyped by my own race, which is crazy. In high school, I was a cheerleader. I took, the honors and AP courses, and I was a nice kid.
That's what you're supposed to do, right? That's a good student.
My black friends call me white girl.
Oh my goodness.
All throughout school, that's all I heard. Oh, but here comes the white girl.
Oh my goodness.
It's about insecurity too.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with insecurity.
Yeah, so I'm white because I'm a cheerleader because I make good grades and I speak normal.
Yes.
I'm white. And that carried it. My family did it.
Oh no.
My cousins.
Oh no.
My age, some of them still do it. Here come white girl, hey girl. I'm like, y'all, really?
Are we still doing this?
Clearly, I'm not a white girl, but it's just to say the stereotypical thing that black people can't be a certain way and still be
successful
black.
and be black. Yeah.
And be black.
That's crazy.
But it's real.
It's real.
It's real. It happens. And some of it, like Theresa said, is insecurities. Other ones is ignorance. Like the lady at the bank, she honestly really didn't know. She wasn't trying to be mean to me. She didn't know. But and this may not have been. It was in the 2000s, maybe 2004 or something. It wasn't like 1980 when people didn't even know where Puerto Rico existed until Ricky Martin and J-Lo came out, and then Puerto Rico lit up a little bit more. But it's sad that people will categorize you because of what you do or what you look like.
Absolutely, they do. How about, and we have a few here. For example, women are natural nurturers, men are natural leaders. That's
not necessarily true. I think Kevin is very nurturing with his daughter. And I've met men that are terrible leaders.
Absolutely.
Terrible leaders.
We had a president that was a terrible leader.
We can't wait on these topics we talking about. We can't wait to hear from you guys. Okay, we can't wait to hear your comments.
There's people that are terrible leaders in both sexes, to assume one over the other.
And I've had experience with women without children. Are less devoted to being a mom or or there's something wrong with women who don't want to have children.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've been learning that one, respecting people that don't have children. I would say the last few years, I've been guilty. When you get married, whenever a year, when are you gonna have children?
Yeah.
I don't ask people that anymore.
Me either.
Because there's people that don't want to have children, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
And because we stereotype women into a category that you go to school, maybe college, you get married and you have children.
That's right.
That's our
the
box.
Yeah, that's
And
a
if
box.
you're not in that box, then what's wrong with you? Why don't you want to have children?
Tracy Ellis Ross said it really well. I was on Instagram scrolling, and she's Diana Ross's daughter. You know, she says she's 53. She doesn't have children, but she has value. We without children have value. We can be godmothers. We can be good aunties. You know, we are still good people, even though we decide not to have children. And the first thing is somebody, what's wrong with you? You know,
Why don't you want to have
why
children?
can't you have kids?
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
why don't you want any more?
That's
Because
a good
I was
one.
getting ready to say
Because
that.
I was
That's a
a
good
person
one.
that I said when I had my son, I didn't want any more children. All right. And it's not that I had a terrible pregnancy, you know, and it's not that I didn't like kids or whatever, right? But I was happy with my one.
With the
all right?
one.
But guess what I was? I was an auntie to a ton of nieces and nephews and friends' kids and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But for me, you know, but people will ask you, when you gonna have your next one? Or, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not.
You didn't.
And I didn't.
How about you? You only have one.
I have one. When Kevin was 4, his dad and I got separated and divorced a year later. And being a single parent after that, I refused to be a single parent again. I just did not want to be a single parent. So the opportunity never came for me to get married again until I met John. And by then, I was in my early 40s. I didn't want him. Had I gotten married before that, I probably would have tried to have one more child. But I just refused to be a single parent. I did not want to have a baby without a husband.
Complete sense. That is sense. I mean, up here, that's smart.
Because, and it's okay if you're a single parent. I just didn't want to do that. It was
You just
hard
want
enough
to keep
with just
doing it
one.
over and over. Like
No,
you
it
do.
was so hard.
I did it, and one of my reasons was because, you know, I said I would have, you know, my son was a love baby, just letting y'all know, okay? Love his father and stuff like that. He was
That's
a love
sweet.
baby. I told him he was a love baby. He was, you know, I wasn't married to his father, you know, but he was a love baby. But my thing was, is like when you have this child here, and then you have another one that's not your husband. You know, and then you have different sets of aunts and uncles and grandparents, and this one is doing for this one, you know, because everybody loved my son, you know, and then this one, right, whatever. I mean, and that was just my thinking when I was in my childbearing years.
That was fair thinking,
you know, and that's how I thought, and I said I didn't want that.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
Theresa, you might identify with this. Women in leadership, you know, they're unfeminine, they're bossy. You know, they're the B word. Being a people leader, a female leader, and a black woman over people.
Right, yeah. So one of the things I would say is it was all about respect. I never gave anybody a reason to disrespect me. You know what I mean? And because I was the one person sitting at the table. You know what I mean? I was at the table, you know, y'all know the table, the executive table. And I just knew my worth, you know what I mean? When it was time to, you know, to participate, I participated, you know what I mean? When it was time to listen, you know, I listened. And I respected other people's opinions about things and stuff like that. And I will tell you that in the time that I was in leadership, I have never been disrespected. And I feel so bad when I hear stories about women, Ronisha and Suzanne, and I hear them to this day where women are disrespected in the workplace because they are in a leadership position. I mean, we all are trying to do a job being responsible for our little our little segment of this company, you know what I mean, but I just carry myself with respect. I just really didn't give anybody a reason, to disrespect me. But that doesn't mean that people who don't give people a reason to disrespect them, they still get disrespected.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But I never felt that I had to be loud. I never felt that I had to be pushy. I never felt any of that. I just was myself, and I did my job, and I did it because just who I was, and I'm gonna do my job to the best of my ability.
How about, okay, I'm gonna jump in, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate. How about, do you feel that as a female, because what were the words you used? I just remember the B word.
No, the B word.
The B word. Bossy.
The
poor.
B-I-T-C-H.
Yeah, do you think that sometimes women in leadership need to be or feel that they need to be that in order to be respected?
I do.
Yes.
They come across as that because
Yes.
they have to, because if not, they will not be
be heard.
You just had a good team, and that's where your experience. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we are looked. Oh, you just don't. How did you get this job? Like,
That's
true.
That's true.
That's why I said what I said. There are women out there that experience that to no fault of their own. So they feel like in order to be heard, because they're responsible for whatever they're responsible for.
They have to fit in with the guys.
They have to fit in with guys. I gotta go out with y'all after work, and I gotta,
and I gotta curse and
all that kind of stuff.
Being like one of the boys.
I remember your previous boss acting like she had to be one of the guys. I remember her like trying to drink with them and hang out with them.
Yeah.
We're not gonna say her name, but I remember that, and I'm like, that's so weird.
Yeah, I remember. I told her to her face, I didn't like her.
Oh gosh.
Because she lied on me. I think we had that in another podcast. I ain't gonna never forget that.
But some women and then some men. I don't know if you've had any leaders that kind of. I haven't really experienced that, but I've seen it heard of it, where they treat women kind of like, they're below.
I had a manager that was very terrible.
Condescending.
But as a woman,
he
would make me walk with him and talk with him, make me go to lunch with him. I'm like, this is inappropriate. Like, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here just to work.
Right.
Like, would you do this to a man? Like, would you come and walk with me?
Yeah.
It's in the afternoon, I'm working. He comes to my desk because he wants to, quote unquote, talk to me.
Well,
then
let's have a meeting.
Let's have a meeting in your office. Why do I have to walk with you?
Not keeping it professional.
It wasn't, it was very unprofessional to me. I felt very
violated.
I did. And I ended up quitting because of how it was just a weird relationship. I didn't like it.
I've had it where, I don't know if this is a stereotype, but just because we work in an office and I'm a female and I might dress nice and be cute, does not give you a pass to hit on me. Right?
Yeah.
Have you had that? Like, I'm
only
not here,
that weird manager, I felt some vibes.
I've had that, and where you're uncomfortable, and it's like, would you do this to a guy that comes in the office looking good and has nice cologne? Like, you're not gonna go, hey, dude, you look really handsome today.
Right.
You don't do that. Don't do that to me.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's sad though, because as a former human resources manager, I would get cases. Not often, but they came across, in the time that I was there, and some women feel like they have to be subjected to that type of inappropriate behavior because the guy's either being too, handsy or too familiar, or want to keep asking them out on dates and things of that nature and stuff like that. It is absolutely 100% not okay. And yes, have relationships formed in the workplace?
Sure.
Absolutely. You're there every day.
If they're mutual,
but
it's
if
fine.
it's mutual.
Yeah. As soon as if I give you a look or I leave or I don't laugh, that's a cue.
If I tell you, no, I'm not interested, that's enough to say.
But then again, then you have to be mindful of retaliation.
Yeah.
These are laws that they can be sued.
Retaliation, because, you don't want to this.
Or how about this way? How about women? Because men also get harassed.
That's absolutely
right. Men can get him because he's a man, and you're stereotyping him being a man, and he'll be fine. I can hit on him because that's what men like. Not all. Some men, they go to work, they're professional. They don't want to have this type of environment. So
Let's talk about gender specific stereotypes. And I have a good example. Y'all know I love Prince. Prince wore makeup, he wore heels. And a lot of people used to talk about him being gay or androgynous and all the things. I feel like we put stereotypes on gender in terms of how women should dress, how men should dress. What are your thoughts? I say dress how you want to dress.
I guess whatever makes you happy. Like the first one for me that I remember a few years back, the first time that I saw a guy wearing nail polish, I was like, oh my gosh, he has nail polish. And I don't even think it may have been a sexual preference thing. I think in that situation, Halloween had just passed. And I think the guy painted his nails for Halloween, and they were still painted. Or I've seen little kids paint their daddy's nails. Little girls painting their daddy's nails, and they go to work with those nails. It doesn't mean anything, but it took me a minute, and now I'm like, it's okay. Like if you don't paint your nails, paint your nails. It doesn't matter.
How about Dwayne Wade is coming out with a nail color line for men?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to
men are getting into
nails.
Now Prince never painted his nails, but he wore lots of makeup, and he did his own makeup. I mean, James Brown wore makeup. They all wore makeup.
Anchors wore makeup. Everybody wears makeup.
And what about? And what about? I remember the first time I saw somebody, and a man carrying a purse or a bag.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, you have to think about it. But you're thinking about it, right? Well, they have things too.
They do.
They have, especially these days when you got the phone. They
got their wallet, their keys. They can't fit all in there because they're wearing skinny jeans.
Yeah.
So they can't put everything in their pockets.
Look where we've come. That we didn't wear pants as women. We wore dresses.
Oh yeah, from back in the day.
Back in the day, if you wore pants, it was scandalous.
Yeah,
So we've progressed, I guess, with society, and in some cases it's okay. In some cases, it's a little bit like, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, is it hurting anyone, really? It doesn't hurt anyone. I'd rather see a guy or a woman, I'm not going to keep it just to men, dress and do whatever you want, than have this straight and arrow appropriate person, and they're a serial killer.
That's true.
Right?
Be yourself.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, be yourself.
What about men don't cry? This is a big thing, it's a big thing. And I've been getting on my son because my grandson cries because he's 3.
Yes.
They cry. That's how they express themselves. And he says, stop that crying. Don't you cry. Stop. I'm like, no, let him cry. He
I
is
think
a baby.
when they say boys don't cry.
Yeah, boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry.
I don't like that.
Then I don't like that either. However, there has to be control. Because
that's with anybody.
Yeah.
Does it?
Well, I dated this person. I went out on a date with this guy we went on about 3 dates. And it was a blind date. The first one was a blind date. And I had gotten out of an almost 5-year relationship. And I guess he had gotten out of a long-term relationship as well. So our friend knew each other. And set us up. And we went out on a few dates. Nice guy, no problem. But what really got me turned off was we were going to the beach one day, and the radio was on. It was fine. He's driving. I'm in the driver's seat, and I hear, and I'm like, is he crying? So I'm trying, with the side of my eye I didn't want to look, and I'm like looking for this, and I kept hearing this sniffling, and so I finally, it made me uncomfortable. I don't know you like that. So I finally asked, are you okay? The right thing to do, ask if the person is okay. And he's like, yeah, this was our song, me and my ex-girlfriend's song.
Rude.
Okay.
Anyway,
I did not like it. I did not like him crying. And And this person
Did you not?
cried.
Here's the question: did you not like him crying, or the fact that he was crying about an ex? And he was
I
on a
did
date
not
with
mind
you?
crying about an ex. That did
Oh.
not bother me. But this person was a little weepy at times, and I felt that then I'm consoling him too often. I don't mind if my man cries, but my man needs to be strong. So
See,
when I'm crying,
That's a stereotype.
I know.
You want a man to be strong.
I want a man to be strong.
They're human.
He can cry though. He can cry, but I can't be the one consoling you every time something makes you weep.
Because we're not always strong, and men are always strong.
I agree with that, but maybe we can cry together.
You
but,
want to,
but I don't want.
I want you to cry at funerals, okay?
I don't want you to. I just
sometimes.
can't have you crying because there's self-control too. You gotta be
It's
able to.
emotional intelligence.
It wasn't
you
the.
know,
It wasn't the appropriate time for him to be practically
He heard
bawling.
a song he liked.
No. That's not okay. But it was more than that, and I'm kind of. It was more like the crime came up too often where I'm I just had a breakup. Like I'm healing from my breakup. I'm not crying around you. I'm controlling myself. And it is emotional intelligence.
But you're different, and he wanted to cry.
Yeah, I didn't like that. No.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
But if the man cries, I don't have a problem with men crying. Do you?
No.
I don't. Especially babies.
I don't, because my son is pretty, not pretty sensitive, but...
A sensitive guy's okay.
Yeah,
He's better than a tough.
Yeah, he's sensitive.
It's better than, like, John's a pretty non-sensitive guy.
Yeah.
So, it has
to be a balance, right?
It has to be a balance.
balance.
Thank you, yes.
But
that was
cry a little
inappropriate.
bit. Cry when something happens that hurts you.
The mature thing
Right.
could have
That's
been
fine.
for him to turn the radio station. Oh, I'm getting a little emotional. Let me change the station.
Emotional intelligence and realizing where the environment
Yes.
and the type of emotion
wasn't
you
okay.
exude around people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
I agree with that. But men can't cry. That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom
Men
line.
can cry. It is okay.
What about the stereotype that all black people are good at sports, or Latinos are all immigrants, or all white people have more money or rich?
It makes me think of that movie, like White Men Can't Jump.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It's
I
a
liked
can or
it.
can't. It's
White
can't.
men can't jump.
Can't jump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson
Uh-huh.
and Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, it's a great
Uh-huh.
movie.
It's a great movie. But I think that's a stereotype. Like I've known black men that are not good at sports.
I know, that's so classic.
And I met white men that are great at
textbook
sports.
Stereotype.
Yeah.
The examples
You know,
just
the
read.
last dunker who won was a white man. He won.
Mm-hmm.
The last, I'm not saying it right.
And for I think for Hispanic, is baseball is a big one, and soccer. There must be great soccer players. You're Hispanic.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about unconscious bias and what that means.
Mhm.
So unconscious bias is things that you don't necessarily think you believe, but unconsciously you do. Like when somebody comes on the bus and you're sitting down and it's and you're like, you don't want to be close by this Hispanic man or this black man or whomever.
I got one.
But
I got a good one.
why did you move? It's something that
Right.
you don't necessarily directly say that you have an issue with, but in your movement and your behavior, you have an issue.
I got a good one, y'all. When you're like in a store, busy place, and children are just out of control and they're crying, and I used to look. I used to look at the mother, and a lot of times it was the mother, and I'm like, you don't hear this child over here, whatever.
That's a good
So unruly.
But let me tell you what my spirit discerned and stopped me from doing that. That child could be on the spectrum. Okay?
That's true.
And I do not do that anymore. And when I find myself, because you in the store, right, everything quiet, the next thing it's an outburst or whatever the case may be. I'm not gonna say I don't initially, but I go to that place. I said, you don't know what's going on.
I've done that before, but my thought didn't go to the spectrum. My thought now goes to, that mother must be exhausted.
That's a good one. That's
Because
a good one.
She's probably with this child all day long, trying to buy groceries,
Mm-hmm.
and this child is losing its mind. and she's done, she's exhausted.
She's tired.
So I try to tell myself, sometimes I've never done it, but I'm trying to work towards stepping in and saying, hey, do you need any help? Because they might be tired and they just don't have any more energy to discipline a child.
You know, what I've been doing is keeping lollipops in my purse. So, because when I'm on the plane or I'm somewhere around and their kids are screaming, if the parents don't mind, I'm like, well, they like a lollipop. Because I'm a grandma.
Good one.
They keep lollipops. Because my grandkids love candy.
Yes.
And they'll be
don't be
wild
busy with the lollipop.
Right. And what I do, if the child is in the cart, you know what I'm saying, I go and look at the child. And
I'm giving him a look like...
No, this is good. I will make faces at them and they look at me like I'm crazy.
Oh, I don't make happy faces.
So I will look at them, whatever, and then they start mimicking.
I've even done like this to them, like...
I've done that too.
No, but my mom's not looking when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they're like, who's this lady?
Another one that I have that it's kind of bad. I don't do that anymore, but right after 9/11, when I got on a plane.
Remember we had to go to the insurance thing after 9/11?
And it was I think we flew on 9/11.
We flew after. I flew a few days after 9/11.
Not that 9/11, but the year after I did fly on 9/11. On the 9/11
I
day.
flew like a week after 9/11.
We went to Florida. Yeah, and
Clearwater.
I would look at the plane to stereotype.
I used to do that.
That was so bad of me. I would look at every passenger to see if anybody would jump at me, if they looked like a terrorist, what my idea of a terrorist was.
Right.
And I would look and I would watch that person the whole flight.
Yeah, I did
that. That was terrible.
We all did that, I think.
Yeah, I did do that. And that was terrible.
Let's maybe end with this last one. Stereotypes on age in generations, like baby boomers, they don't know technology. Millennials are lazy.
Not a lot is terrible.
Gen Zs are always on their phones. Like, they don't want real jobs.
Right.
They want to be entrepreneurs. All Gen Zs want to be entrepreneurs.
So let me ask you this. So do you feel that every stereotype has a little nugget of truth and then it grows from there?
I think so, yes. I think...
Because the ones that you said, that's what it is. It's just a small population and then we blow it up to the whole population.
But that's the problem, because there may be few people that aren't that way.
Right.
But we project that on them too. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some truth into a lot of it.
And then we just blow it up into the whole, everyone is like that. If I had brown skin, everybody that has brown skin must have a green card. Right? Yeah.
There's a stereotype I felt having children as a single black woman. She's a baby mama. She's uneducated. She's not smart. And
she's on government assistance.
I'm on government assistance. Exactly. And that was so conscious, like in the back of my mind, I really worked hard to try to dispel
that stereotype.
That stereotype. That's why I was so happy when I became a professor and I walked in, I wore I did this on purpose. I just wanted to see how people would engage with me. I walked in, I had on jeans, I had on a shirt and some flats, and I walked in and I didn't walk in front of the class. I kind of stayed to the side, but then when it was time to start class, I walked in the front and people's faces like dropped.
Oh yeah.
Like is this our professor? Because they couldn't believe it.
I used to love shocking people though.
Oh yeah.
Because they had these preconceived notions about a thing, okay? And then I would do something, because I don't like typical. I don't like typical. I'm like, do outside the box, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Don't be like everybody else, do something different. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. And it don't have to be anything grand all the time, you know what I'm saying? But walk a different way, you know what I'm saying? Do something different.
I even felt getting a cancer diagnosis, I felt a certain type of way. I felt people were putting me in the she's out of here box. So the care was very flippant, very matter of fact. no bedside manner.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, is this how they treat people that they're treating? Is this how they talk to people who are going through a life crisis, a health crisis? Like, this is wrong. I'm like, okay, I need to do something about this. I need to teach people how to advocate for themselves with these doctors who have written you off, but I haven't written myself off. You might have written me off, but I have not written myself off. So I dealt with that initially. I prayed, I got a new doctor, and she wasn't that way with me, but my first doctor was just like,
Wow.
whatever.
Matter of fact.
Very matter of fact.
Because he deal with this all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
They get the sense
Exactly.
Didn't individualize you at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, calling me on Thanksgiving. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's bad. Yeah, this is what we thought.
Wow.
I'm like, really?
Wow.
I'm different. I know what you think. I know, but I'm different.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something to go through. That I felt like that was a stereotype. The word cancer is it's a alarming word.
Mm-hmm.
So when people hear it, they automatically think death, because I guess that's the outcome for a majority of people, but still attaching that no nonsense and that lack of sensitivity to people who are going through a health crisis is bad. That's a stereotype.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did experience it. Thank God I had my mom who was there encouraging me. I'm like, don't worry about what he said. It's okay. It's fine. And I got a great doctor named Dr. Fink, her sweet self, who was encouraging, very encouraging during that time.
Yeah, I have a tendency when I find people, just being, unkind or just matter of fact and stuff like that, I will engage them in conversation.
You do or you don't?
I do.
You do.
I sure do. Okay? Because why you grumpy? What's wrong?
Right.
What I've been doing lately when people are like in customer service or helping me, I'll look at their name.
I do that too.
And
Call them by their
I'll
name.
say, thank you, Laura. Have a nice day.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And it makes them, or I'll say it if they're acting really grumpy, I'll do something where I'm making it more personal for them. And it seems to make it, especially when customer service on the phone and you really want or need something.
I know, right? Yeah,
Hey, Peter, I would really appreciate if you could make this work out for me.
And when I'm finished, I'm like, and if I don't remember your name, if I don't jot it down or whatever, I'm like, what's your name again? And I'm saying, thank you so very much, because the one thing I know about customer service is that those calls is being recorded, okay? So if you being ugly, then your superior is going to know. But if you're being, I want, if it's just matter of fact, I don't care, But if it's like, and I get like really good service, I want whoever listens to this call recording for quality purposes, okay, or training, okay, I want them to know that they did a good job.
That's right, absolutely. And I take the time to do that. Do you remember years ago there was a stigma about men who stayed home and took care of their children?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember?
What do you think about that?
I think it's great.
I think it's fine.
I think it's fine because women are out there in the workplace and they're doing their
I even
thing.
asked Kevin this week, I said, would you be a stay-at-home dad? And he said, I would, but it's too much work. It's a lot of work to stay home with a baby. Like you work harder staying home with a baby than being in the office.
But I want you to be comfortable. I want you
that.
to be comfortable with it because if you're doing it right,
There's
if
a lot
you're
of
doing
movies
it,
about
there's two things. If you're doing it because
This is Doubtfire.
look, because you kind of lazy, okay, and you just don't want to go out there and work and stuff like that,
Okay.
Yeah. And you're doing like the
I mean, you have to be a good parent. You can't be lazy and then watching TV all day, letting the kids run around, and then the wife or the partner comes home and the house is upside down and the baby's not changed. Like, not that.
I always say, what works for your household?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
I think it's
works for you
okay.
guys.
It's okay.
And I saw one on there that said pregnant women. Did you see that one about being pregnant and looking for employment?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was pregnant when I got hired with you guys, and I felt a certain type of way.
So and we don't say it. Like, I was so scared. And I had a job. I was so scared to have a job. I was so scared for my employer to know that I was pregnant, that I wouldn't get promoted or...
It's a real thing.
It's a thing.
It's a real thing.
And you can't be asking certain questions. And you can't stuff. And the interview process.
And I don't have to
if
tell
they,
you that I'm
and
pregnant.
then because managers used to like feel a certain type of way when you're a month in, okay? They still in training, and they come and tell you that they're expecting, and they're gonna be leave. You know, they're gonna be in 5 months. I'm gonna be gone. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But
But I was pregnant when you guys hired me.
I started seeing that. I'm like,
you were like,
buddy, I think she's pregnant. So you think so? I'm like, I think she's getting a little bump.
Yeah.
And then eventually I asked you.
Yeah, I was like, yes, I am. But here's another thing. This has even happened to me recently. I wear my natural hair, and I wanted to get a new job, and I felt some type of way. I felt like I had to look a certain way because I didn't want to be perceived like a haircut with lines in my head. I didn't want to be perceived as this crazy black woman with crazy hair. I got a wig. It looked like Diana Ross from the Supremes. So ugly. I put on my little interview suit, and I went in and I interviewed. I got the job. I came to work 3 days later, and they didn't know who I was.
That's funny.
I remember when I got braids. And I went and, I didn't think about it. I just wanted them.
There's stereotypes
So I got the braids, and I didn't
in the
workplace about hair.
Hair, tattoos,
hair,
piercings.
Yeah. Although I think if you're customer facing,
that was the whole thing. Because we had policy on tattoos and piercings, because managers, the conservative,
because your
customers
are all over the spectrum.
It depends on the industry. In the banking industry, it's conservative finance.
Yeah,
it's conservative.
It's conservative.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you're in the creative space,
you
can do what you want. You can have purple hair, pink hair, but we have policies where natural colored hair. I could be a blonde though, because that's a natural color. So it might be natural, not natural on me, but it's natural on somebody. It's a natural color. I can't do pink.
Not like pink or purple.
It was the tattoos for me with people, because you have people, they have the sleeves and and now I don't know what they got.
What about the ear, the ear extender, the ear?
Oh yeah. No, the one thing that manager lost his mind because there was a young lady that had a tongue piercing. All right.
Why he in her tongue? Why she in her mouth?
Because she was she was a receptionist and stuff like that.
See
and
it.
So, when we had a policy, no, because you can't take it out because the tongue closes,
it heals.
So so I gave them the alternative. They said, tell her to put in a clear stud.
Not the one that clackety clacks.
Not the you know what I mean? Because she is talking to people, she's client facing. Okay, so that's part of her job. Now, if she was in the back, doing something, administrative or collections or whatever she was doing, then it's not a thing. But, and guess what? And she did it too. I mean, she was a compromise, because you can't close, if you
put something in it,
it'll heal, because it'll heal. Our body naturally heals,
okay.
How about like sayings that are, phrases or things that we say, cursing like a sailor? Right?
They curse. No, I don't
But
know.
it's a stereotype that all sailors curse.
That's true. That's right.
Cursing like a sailor, like we even.
I don't think sailors mind that that's a stereotype.
I work with sailors.
But drunk like a sailor.
Drunk like a sailor.
Because they say they drink. They're alcoholics.
Mine is like, this is bad. I'm a military wife. I support our troops.
I know what you're gonna say.
And I love, but I watch Dateline. And a lot of the murderers are Marines.
I already know.
And when I watch it, and I'm not serious, but I'm watching it, so I'm like, is this a Marine? It's terrible.
It's because they're the front. They're the
I love Marines. I'm married to one, so it's not that. It's just that in my mind, maybe that's an unconscious bias.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that when I'm, I don't know.
How about when you see a pregnant mom with 3 or 4 of the kids? What's your...
it's 2 or 3 not enough.
All about people's business, because that's what we do.
Like, when are you going to finish? Like, that show and the one that had the 20 kids I'm like, that's just child abuse. Why are you having more children?
You can't possibly
be able to take care of the, it's a stereotype. We
Yeah,
don't
it's a
know her.
stereotype.
We don't know her.
You know how efficiently
situation.
they're running this show or this household.
That's right.
They might be more efficient than me with my one, actually.
Absolutely.
You know,
You don't know it's a stereotype.
Yeah.
So this has been really, really good talking. Let's sum up with what can we do to prevent unconscious bias, stereotypes? What can we do?
I think just see the person as they are. Don't think that you think how they are or what they look or how they're going to react or think or feel. Just let them, their personality, tell you. Like, don't make assumptions, I guess, basically.
Yeah, we as humans are naturally judgmental. Okay, some people, more than others. We, understand that, right? But the thing about it is that when you find yourself doing that, just make a conscious decision, to step back for a minute, because you don't know the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
You don't know their story.
And I would say, just get to know people. Just talk to people. Have conversations. I went to a real estate seminar, and she said, you should have 10 conversations a day. Just talk to people.
Wow.
Even if it's, hello, how are you? I see this. Oh, well, and just get to know people on their level, and that can help.
And sometimes, like, this happened to me. Has this happened to you? I was in a new group setting, and I felt disconnected with them. I felt like, and this wasn't that long ago, so I'm not talking about a 20-year-old Suzanne. I'm talking about in my mid-50s, where I felt like, I don't think they like me. I was in my bad space, and I would tell John, like, I don't understand. I feel excluded, and it was my own bias. I was seeing the interaction with others, and instead of just jumping in and being interactive and friendly, I was withdrawing myself, and I was probably making them uncomfortable. So eventually I took the time to get to know these people, and it was fine. It's like, insecurities can sometimes make us feel a certain way about someone, and it's just, you just gotta work through that.
That's true. Yeah, we project a lot of how we feel on other people. So that's a good one. This has been great. Let's think about a hashtag. Let's say 3V.
You.
What is our topic? Or
stereotypes.
We're gonna keep it simple.
Yeah, we are here.
Hashtag 3VU stereotypes.
Keep it simple.
And just share your stereotypes, things that you've experienced, or how you have been able to circumvent stereotypes and unconscious bias.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Do us a big favor and hit that like button, share this episode, and subscribe.